The following is a conversation with Marina Harris, an opera singer, vocal coach, and an outspoken advocate for the fair treatment of women and people of color in opera. Marina talks about vocal care, ways for opera to survive as an art form, and mental health. Afterwards, we'll have a special friend, Coco from San Diego, to join us again on our new aftershow segment, Music Retrospective. For those just tuning in to Pepe and Ybra for the first time, I'm Pepe, aka Joanna Glass, and Ybra, aka A. Perez, is my bandmate, and we are professional musicians in a two-piece rock band called Glass Spirits. This podcast will have guests who are musicians or professionals in the music and entertainment business. They'll have music tips, discuss issues in the music industry, what inspires them, and their creative process. Our current schedule will be to publish each episode every week. We have all the episodes filmed and in the can, so you'll definitely get an episode every week. If we get a positive response, we'll have a second season, so make sure you like, comment, rate, and review this podcast. The theme of this season is Voyager, because many of our guests have come from all over the world, or some are transplants from across the country. But the voyage doesn't have to be physical. Many of them have had emotional and spiritual voyages as well. We have some very quick announcements. We won't always have sponsors, but when we do, we'll read their messages at the beginning of the episode so that the conversation is not interrupted. Do you love to sing? Do you wish you could hit those higher notes with more ease or hold them longer? Do you wish your voice wouldn't get tired after belting? Do you wonder how you can step to the next level and get ready for your band's next gig or recording? So, if you're looking to improve your singing, then look no further than Valle Vocal Studios. Vocal coach Laura Valle has over 20 years' experience in the music industry as a performer, producer, and vocal instructor with a passion to figure out each individual vocal challenge. I called Laura 13 years ago and told her about my former background in music and my goals, that I wanted to improve my range and only had a limited amount of time to practice. Fortunately, she was very flexible and didn't enforce a rigid curriculum. She would listen to my voice, diagnose problems like a doctor, and, with practice, I immediately noticed smoother transitions between different ranges and tones. I am really fortunate to have found a teacher who is technical, flexible, and encourages creativity. 13 years later, I am more confident about my singing, especially in my band Glass Spirits, so I definitely recommend Laura S. Valle. You can find more information about the lessons at www.vallevocalstudios.com and call Laura for a phone consultation. Tell them that Pepe and Ybra sent you and get 50% off your first lesson. If you enjoy this podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, give it 5 stars, and leave a good review on Apple Podcast. Support us on Patreon, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or our website, pepeandybra.com. Now, without further ado, here's our conversation with Marina Harris. Hi, welcome to another episode of Pepe and Ybra. I am Pepe, aka Joanna Glass of the rock band Glass Spirits. And with me, I'm so excited. I have a very special guest. She can't contain her excitement either.
That's true.
And she is so courageous, so hardworking, so talented. Yeah, I'm not going to deny you guys any longer of her presence. This is opera singer, musician extraordinaire, Marina Harris.
Thank you. That's like the nicest introduction I think I've ever gotten. I will expect all future introductions to be that good from now on. But that is so nice. That's so nice. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm so happy that we have this podcast to do this and invite our friends. And so we like to give context to our audience, and they want to know like how we know you, how I know you,
Totally.
And we both went to, which is now called Bob Cole Conservatory of Music, which is affiliated with Cal State Long Beach. And I was a violin performance major. And Marina was studying opera performance, but we actually have never, like, we've crossed paths, but we've never, like, gotten to know each other at the time. Like, I don't want to say each department was cliquey or anything, but, you know, you tend to hang out with those who have your same area of study. And, but we have mutual friends. And then later on, I befriended you on Facebook, and then I just loved, like, seeing your posts. You were just calling out people on the internet, like, for misconduct. And I was like, and I didn't contribute because I didn't really know what was going on, but I was, like, reading the comments, and I was like, damn, this is a badass bitch who does not give a fuck. And so, sorry, I'm not, like, trying to demean you by calling you a bitch on International Women's Day.
No worries. I feel like, you know, it's like, I also am very fond of the idea of, like, reclaiming the word bitch as something that is actually a positive connotation as well. And, like, you know, it's like the way we use that word now, it's not even really, I think, what it was intended to be. Like, when women call each other a bitch, like, usually we're doing it in a playful way, or like, I sort of love the use of the word in a different context than an insult, you know, like, and I like it between women as well. But also I feel like, you know, that's one of those things that people are like, this is what feminism is about. And it's like, no, actually, like, I kind of don't care if anybody, like, calls me a bitch or thinks I'm a bitch. Like, that doesn't bother me so much. What I do care about is like, if that happens in a professional, like, workspace, that happens, you know, in front of a whole bunch of people, then, like, not ideal. But I don't know. I think it's like it's one of those things that, you know, I think a lot of men are trying to figure out, like, what does feminism look like? And I think they find one version of it that they agree with. And then they are like, okay, well, that's it. I've learned everything that there is to know about feminism now. I know it all. And, you know, there's no way that I could be wrong about something. But really, like, what feminism is to me is, like, being tolerant. We have to agree to disagree. And I think we don't necessarily have to, like, you know, like, we put so much emphasis on, you know, this idea of, oh, feminism looks like this, but it doesn't. Like, and especially for it to be really intersectional, like, it has to look different. Like, we definitely don't all have to agree on everything. We don't have to, like, you know, say this is the one set of rules and, like, everybody has to, you know, do this. But it really is interesting how all of that has sort of come to pass.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because there's even really good, caring, intelligent male friends of mine who are like, I want a girlfriend who's a bitch. And then I was like, wait, hold on. I don't want to assume what your definition of a bitch is. Like, what does that mean? Yeah. And he's like, a girl who's, like, strong and outspoken. Yeah. And I was like, well, does that necessarily mean she's a bitch? And I'm kind of, like, half assuming what their intention is.
Right.
So,
which like I do that all the time as well, where it's like somebody will say something and then it's like it might be like a castaway comment, like it's just not even anything serious, and then it's like, oh, that actually was problematic, but you know what, like it's not worth it necessarily to go back and call out and be like, I think like that's the other thing too, is, you know, when you see it, and I am certainly guilty of this from time to time, like I tend to go 0 to 60 and be like, that's messed up and this is why. But rather than doing that, like a lot of the time it's, you know, especially when you know the person who said it, or you have a real history with them in real life, like a lot of the time you can just shoot them a private message and be like, hey, this is why what you said was kind of iffy. Like, just letting you know, you can still make choices about the language that you use, and like, just don't expect it not to have an effect on the women that you know. You know, I think like that's the thing too, is like, I think I see a lot of men posting like memes and things like that will sort of lead them to the wrong conclusion about feminists or feminism, and then they're sort of like, well, why is this wrong? And then like, you know, a bunch of women will come on and it becomes a big like, this is sexist, this is offensive to me. And it's like, I think when you have a whole bunch of women screaming that at you, there's no way any lesson can be learned from that, which really sucks.
They recoil,
on the one hand. Yeah, because like what happens if somebody tells me you can't do that, the first thing that I want to do is do that thing. Like it's terrible, but I think it's human nature. And then I think a lot of the time when we yell at each other in a social media space, we end up just doubling down on what we sort of thought in the first place. And then it becomes, oh, well, this is just an echo chamber of like, we disagree with each other and no resolution comes from that. I'm learning that lesson all the time. And I think that is my biggest concern when returning to live performances. I don't know why it's like some people I think can really get in the mindset of, you know, it'll be safe, but then they don't actually do any. Like Nat's provided such a good guideline for singers to follow, and there have been several others, including BYU, oddly enough, but not that oddly because they're, you know, I think it's one of those situations where when you're in college, you know, it's a little bit easier to kind of organize your life in a way where you're quarantining. I think like, you know, you have dorms, like the sort of like, oh, okay, well, you know, it may be a little bit easier to sort of separate off and quarantine yourself. But luckily all of the performers I'll be singing with end of next month will be vaccinated by then. And then hopefully, you know, the donors, like I'm sure will be, and hopefully as much of the audience as possible. And I think that's like, you know, as long as nobody minds if I'm wearing a mask unless I'm singing. So I made that very clear, like at the beginning of the gig, like, you know, I will meet and greet. I will even shake hands with people. I'll do all of that as long as I can wear my mask. And then when I sing, you know, I'll be distanced and I'll take it off. And of course, like I'm like the queen of hand sanitizer. Fun fact, Marilyn Horne is also like a huge hand sanitizer person. Okay. Like she puts it in her nose when she flies. Yeah, like she's very like the first week at Music Academy, I think the summer that I went in 2010, I think the first present that we got from her was just like, here's some hand sanitizer.
How does it work?
Please
putting it in the nose?
I mean, I don't think it's particularly safe, but opera singers we have like these weird things that we do that we think keep us from getting sick.
Okay.
And now I'm learning, like, I feel like, you know, we should all be epidemiologists after this is all over because we are getting so much information about everything. But like, in general, I feel like, she was such a big advocate for it. But, you know, Frederica von Stade will put like Neosporin in her nose when she flies. Whoa. And then she'll like get a cup of tea and put a towel over her head and then just sit there with like basically creating her own humidifier on the plane. And I've done it. Like it's not ideal, but if you don't have an actual humidifier with you and you need to sing the next day, you know, it's like you got to do what you got to do. For me, I would rather just sing kind of easy the next day and not have to deal with all that falderall on the plane because it's a little bit it's like, to me, I'd rather just sort of get through the flight, have my mask on, because like the masks do provide enough, you know. I have what's called a humidifier, which is like, we got those, I want to say maybe like 2009, 2010, they started becoming really popular. And they're literally these humidifying masks that they look like, you know, Darth Vader masks, but I
think I might have seen them.
Yeah, like you'll see singers wear them, like days of performances. Yeah, and I'm like, but then at the same time, you know, sometimes they do like really save the day. I went to London once and I had like I want to say like a 12-hour flight or something from San Francisco. It was crazy, and then I had to get up, and I was on like such a different time schedule. Oh my gosh, almost like 12 hours difference. And then I had to get up in like 5 or 6 hours and start getting ready for my audition. I was like, oh my God, this is so much. But yeah, it really saved me that day. I think sometimes, if you have situations like an audition or a competition, and you just want to be sure, like for performances, you've already got the job. So like, I think it's a little bit different.
There's more wiggle room.
Yeah. And like, if you, don't hold that note for the perfect amount of beats, like it's fine. I've seen plenty of singers do that in performances and just sing a little cautiously. But, I think also it's a personal preference. Like any other instrument, like any instrumentalist or singer or, artist, you have to learn what works for you. And, if that's what works, great. If it doesn't, cool, do something else. For me, it's just like I'd rather the talking is what kills me. So like I just don't really talk to people on planes.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned a little bit about your flying and travel routine, and I love talking about routines amongst musicians.
Yeah, me too.
Like I have like this pre-gig. Well, I sing rock music, so it's I kind of have to like be more aggressive in the performance rather than like a very exposed opera singer or in classical music. And so my thing is just to be completely relaxed like the day of, but then we do have roadies that help us with our gear and our heavy shit, but then I sometimes have to like load up the heavy shit too, so I need strength. So I eat in the morning. Okay, well the night before, definitely no partying, going to sleep early. I don't mess around anymore. I'm not in my early 20s,
I know, right? And it's so, like such a difference. Ugh.
Oh yeah. Okay. And so then I have something very small in the morning, and then maybe a small snack later. Then I'll have some like ginger tea, something hot.
Nice. Yeah, that's
and then
good.
if we do like a pre-show dinner, because sometimes we perform like 9-10 p.m. and so we're just waiting around, but I don't want a full stomach, so I'll eat something. And I just need to have like enough energy to like set up, hustle our stage setup, and then like perform and cut through, have the vocals cut through to and the audience, because everything's just so loud around me, and then the audience is just loud too. And actually I will mention sometimes, because I just want to relax everything, this might sound weird, but I give myself an enema like the day before.
That's actually probably really smart. I mean, I think like, there's certain things that like if you do them, you'll just feel better going into it. And I think like it's like whatever works for you. I say like go for it. For me, like I find like there are certain things that I can do. Definitely like I'm just not a big drinker anymore. And I know this is like, if you knew me in undergrad, obviously you knew that was not the case. But now, like as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so boring. Like I don't really do, anything crazy or going out. But like it's such a different world in like rock music, like you're doing show after show after show. And like, it's like the pressure is there to like go out and party and drink and whatever, because it's so much about the lifestyle. Whereas with classical musicians, people don't really expect you to be the person who's like, doing shots or whatever. Like there's no, and that's kind of,
that's nice.
We certainly have a lot of like substance abuse issues that arise with opera singers, but that's more to do with, I think, the business aspect of things. And we just sort of, everybody's different. Everybody needs their certain thing before the show. And I like have one friend who she drinks Diet Coke through everything. She's a very famous opera singer, and I won't drop her name because I don't want her to get called out for it. But
is it a sin to have Diet Coke?
I mean, it's one of those things that voice teachers, were like, I can't believe you drink that crap, and I just heard it over and over and over from so many different teachers over the years.
But it's just fizzy and sweet.
Yes, and I think like the carbonation is massive. Like that's what I like, because it just sort of, if I have gunk on my chords like I do today, like it's gone, you know, and I don't have to worry about it. But I don't know. Everybody is so different.
Yeah.
And then there's like, you know, I've also known opera singers from like Eastern Europe who are smokers, and they'll literally just be out on the curb chain smoking, waiting for their cue to come in. And it's like, oh, okay, well, like that is not something I would have been able to get away with.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, it's whatever you need to do. I mean,
Makes
if you,
it raspy.
yeah, and it's like, if you sound great, I don't care. Like, you know, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, I think it's like, that's sort of my, if I had to, you know, have like a life motto, I think it would be, you know, you just need to do whatever you need to do to get through it.
What works
as
for
long
you.
as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Like,
Yeah.
I really wish that more people would kind of leave judgment for things like that, like especially with opera singers, because it's just because of our industry. It's like, it's how old it is. So everybody is a little bit more old school with their thinking. Which is part of the reason that we're struggling. I think we're just not, you know, I don't know if it's
innovating or
yeah, well, we are in a lot of ways, but then when it comes to very like fundamental ideas of who opera singers should be, I think that is where we kind of, you know, it's much more common to find an opera singer who doesn't really have opinions or share them, or, you know, is very quiet about political issues or socioeconomic issues. I think, you know, in historically speaking, that's certainly not been the case. I mean, like Jessie Norman, you know, was a huge activist, and she's very inspiring to me. You know, it's particularly difficult in opera because we all want to seem like we're the best, most wonderful colleague to work with, which I think, you know, I've been rehired by so many of the companies that I've worked with. I think like 90% of the companies I've worked with have had me back. So obviously I'm doing something correct there, but I wouldn't say that I am so worried about people necessarily. You know, I don't want to be the person that's like, I'm the best colleague, because usually that person is kind of a pushover and doesn't really do anything to help their fellow colleague sometimes. I think like a lot of it has to do with just being agreeable and silent and kind of like, yes, sir, no, sir. You know, a lot of those singers end up being very, very successful. And so I think like, it's a little bit, if you can stride the line, I think that's a good thing. And there are a lot of singers out there that will. Wallace Junta is a really good person for that. But there are lots of others. I think, you know, you just have to, not taking a stand, I think, is just as damaging as taking a stand career-wise now. I think, you know, if opera really is serious about this idea of, oh, I want to be the progressive art form that does right by our communities and is, you know, diverse and represents all that opera has to offer as far as singers goes, you know, then that's great. But I think it's like, we'll see if that actually matches up with their actions. Because it's like right now, you know, we're getting a lot of news like, oh, there's a new person that's been hired as the music director for this. And it's like, oh, that's great. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, still it's a cisgender white person in that role, in that leadership role. And it's like, I don't even mind that if your board is very diverse. Yeah. But that's just not typically the case.
Yeah. A diverse board will hire like a diverse
absolutely
conductor or diverse music and everything.
The money has to be, it's like, you know, and I feel for a lot of these companies as well, because I think they're beholden to their donors. You know, the Met, certainly, it's like, I do think the leadership is not good, but at the same time, I think a lot of the reasons that they've had to do the things that they've done is because they have that hanging over them. This idea that all the money could just go away if you don't, you know, sort of keep the status quo happening.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't help anyone. It hurts the whole business. It makes us all look more removed from reality and not connected to what's happening in the real world. And, I think that is very, very dangerous for like the future of opera. Like we have to think more forward if we're going to survive. And some places have done that. The LA Phil is a really good example. They've made so much progress. It could still be more diverse with casting, but I think like hopefully we'll see that. There are opera companies, especially sort of on the smaller to mid size, that have such a higher quality of productions that they're doing. And then also the singing does tend to be better at those levels. I do think that a lot of the time opera is very big on, have you already done this? And I think that's a mistake because we're not giving people the chances that they need in order to say, yeah, I have done that role, or yeah, I have, sung through that whole thing. Even if it's like a situation where you have to fly someone in last minute, if the voice is right and the person knows the role, like I don't see what the risk is, especially because most of these houses will have prompters, so if we lose our place, there is someone in a little box up at the front of the stage who will start waving their hands frantically and say, hey, no, you're, this means stop singing. That's the one thing I learned like first day as a young artist. But yeah, it's interesting. We do tend to kind of burn out our opera singers. A lot of Wagnerian singers specifically get very burned out because it's a difficult repertoire to sing, but also they're just doing too much of it, and then they have to do too much of it in order to make a living. So it's like,
if you do the ring cycle, that's insane, right?
I mean, it's like I still am like, how have I not done a Valkyrie yet? But I think,
maybe it's a blessing in disguise.
It's one of these things where it's like, I think like I certainly can sing it. But a lot of it has to do with how they cast things now. And, if there's a young artist that's in the house that can do it, they'll do that. But, and then I've had a lot of things like, that were supposed to happen but fell through, or there's so much of that in this career. I think like, I almost never tell anyone I'm doing anything anymore until I've signed the contract, because it's like, I just don't want to, I just don't want to count any chickens before they hatch. And it's like, I think back to music being not a meritocracy, again, it's like there certainly are people who are worthy of the success that they get. But I just think that a lot of the time, people get to that level by sort of just being, the right person with the right look, rather than the singing really being tip top. So, I think that's something we definitely need to work on. Just nobody's going to the opera to look at beautiful people. I just like, it doesn't happen.
I mean, most people sit really far away anyway. So why does it matter?
And it's just like, I think also the idea that, fat people can't be love interests, or fat people don't fall in love, or, like these stories that opera has, which are amazing stories, don't happen to fat people. It's just like, what alternate universe is this? Like, it's not, I don't know where we got that idea. I think a lot of it comes from, this sort of thing that happened to pop music where, you can only be, like look like a supermodel in order to get a record deal. It's just like, and we do that as well.
I've gotten it in like in being in my band. My bandmate A. Perez, like, we are so honest with each other, and we don't like criticize each other, but we do relay any information that we hear that might be relevant. And then he's like, oh, so-and-so manager, this and that. I don't believe this, but this is what he said. And it's like, anyone who's said anything about my weight, or like said I could like lose a few pounds, have been old like crusty white men.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, okay, before I get canceled, that all men are old and crusty or white and, you know, and if you're old, you're crusty. But you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm just saying it's like people who are out of touch and have like these old ideals, antiquated ideals of beauty. And so yeah, I just know, like, when I get interviewed in Filipino magazines, they're just like, K-pop is booming, and so how is Filipino music or Filipino rock have visibility? And I was just like, well, there's just got to be people like me and other artists who just keep doing it, and you just have to keep doing it.
I hate the idea that when an art form gets popular, like K-pop. I mean, first of all, K-pop has always been popular. Like, let's be real. And if people just weren't paying attention until now, then I'm sorry. Like, that's not on us as performers. But isn't it so funny that, like, some, you know, for example, a colleague of mine, John Holiday, went on The Voice this season and was like very, very successful, did an amazing job. I always knew he was talented. I never knew how talented he was until he was on The Voice, because he's also able to cross over into pop. And I mean, it's just so many unbelievable things he can do with his voice. But of course, then it's like, oh, well, now you need to do that. Now, you know, what show are you going to audition for? And that is just so not my thing. I think, like, you know, in a perfect world, there would be an opera reality show and we'd all be on it, right? But like, I think trying to accommodate your art to fit another set of preconceived guidelines that people are like, this is successful. It's like, no.
And it what that does is that you have to cater your art to the masses, whereas like you're into, let's say, Prokofiev or whatever, but then to get the attention of people who aren't exposed to classical music, then you'd have to like play like the Four Seasons or something. And then there's nothing wrong with the Four Seasons, of course, but yeah, it would kind of be reductive to the art. And I mean, I do feel it's really important to give art that exposure, but then to put it in that format of a reality TV contest makes it reductive. So
yeah, and I found that like a lot of operatic things have evolved from that. For example, the public masterclass, which I have seen more abusive comments happen in those sort of setups.
In the YouTube comments, or like within
the
teaching?
Like within the confines of teaching. You know, it stinks, but a lot of the time it will just be, and you know, it doesn't always affect the singer. I've seen a pianist just obliterated in a masterclass. And it's like, first of all, no good can come from that, right? Like, no one benefits from somebody getting chewed out for any reason at all in a masterclass. And I think that's one thing that music professionals really need to be mindful of, is that if we are going to do these sort of dog and pony shows where we trot out our young artists and like, look how talented and young and beautiful they are, we need to not allow those situations to come to pass. So, you know, when you're meeting with the people who are, you know, going to be giving the masterclass, all you have to do is say like, okay, there are 4 or 5 things that are off the table and you just are not allowed to make comments about. And for me, number 1 would be weight, because it just, again, it's like, it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't. The first thing, and I know this from being a fat kid my whole life, the first thing that I want to do when somebody tells me I need to lose weight is go eat all the things, which is how my eating disorder sort of developed. And then now, you know, being in recovery from that and seeing, you know, oh, well, of course I went to go binge eat everything because I was constantly getting it from all sides. It was like, you know, when I was growing up, it was my family. When I started, you know, going to college and whatever, and then it was like, well, you'll never get a boyfriend if you don't look that way or whatever. And then then it was opera, who was just like, we reject your body. You know, the only way you'll ever be able to be successful is if you know, lose 50 pounds or lose 100 pounds. I mean, it's just like, And it got to be, now it's at the point where if somebody says something like that to me, it just rolls right off my shoulders. I'm not even concerned with it because so many people have said it to me. And so I think, the one thing I would say is just leave people's weight out of it. Especially after quarantine, it's like we're all going to be up a few pounds. So let's be nice. Let's be nice to ourselves and let's be nice to everyone else and just not care about it because honestly, it doesn't make you a better artist. It doesn't make you a better human. All it does is make you thin. And so I think if it were one thing that could die in a fire during this whole period of time, I hope it's that. And I also hope that it's sort of this racism that is very, very subtle, very covert. There's so much sort of language that people will use that's very coded, but you know what it means. For example, like your hair is too out of control, things like that. Or like, oh, your hair might, it's usually my female colleagues who are Black who get comments about their hair. And it typically is always something that's seems innocuous, seems, God, what's the word?
Well-meaning?
Yes. Seems very above board. I'm totally thinking about inoculating like vaccines. I've got COVID on the brain, but no, it's like innocuous. There we go. It's a very innocuous comment. Finally found the right word. Thank you, Cal State Long Beach, for my education. And like it'll be like, oh, it just looks a little messy, or oh, it doesn't look neat, or something like that. And I'm just always. I think, I have sort of like wavy curly hair. Like it does get to be, a little bit like big if I'm not, paying attention to what it looks like. But nobody's ever made a comment like that to me. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I see what you're trying to say. Yeah. So, if we can just stop doing all of that, full stop. And then in master classes, you can't really start launching into somebody's technique. I think you can say things like, oh, you might want to try this on the high, see if that changes that high note a little bit. What about this? Like, but don't say anything that's so...
That can't be fixed within that 5 minutes there.
Yeah, and I think too, like I've seen, I truly have seen, the worst one was a pianist friend of mine who, the instructor just said, well, I can't believe you're at this level and you haven't, played whatever aria it was. And then him being like, you need to go and play every aria from every aria book, and I don't agree with that at all. I think like, just because somebody is this person was new to collaborative piano with an opera singer. And so, what is that person going to do? They're going to do something else, if we really, there's no point in not being encouraging, because I think like when I think about, going to Cal State Long Beach, I remember Dr. Carney would always get his 490 students up and be like, okay, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for a living when you're done here? And I said, I'm going to perform. I'm going to sing. And he was like, cool, what else are you going to do? And I was like, that's it. And at the time, I was like, what a jerk. Like, how could he imply that I would never do anything except sing? And like, now looking back at it, it makes me laugh so much because it was exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah. But at the time, of course, I wasn't, I didn't do anything with that information. I should have probably, but I think, it was one of those things that it's kind of like if you tell someone like, hey, it's going to be really hard to build a career in music, if they really love it, they'll do it anyway. Yeah. And I was one of those people. But yeah, I wish I had listened to Dr. Carney. Yeah, he was right.
That I had a previous guest, Paul Killian. We were talking about fallbacks and how when I was telling this anecdote about how when I was younger, a very good, well-meaning friend of mine, we were at like a career center. I already knew I wanted to do something with music. I've done different derivatives of music, but something with music. And she was just like, well, why don't you study this or that? You know, you're good at this, and you need a fallback. You need a fallback. And then at that age, I was just like, screw that.
Yeah, I know.
And and actually, I kind of do believe when you're kind of acquiring your first passion to like go for that passion.
Yeah.
But definitely to pay the bills and like have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
It is good to have something, and I prefer to not have something that's similar to music, so my creative cognitive energy doesn't go to that and goes to like my art. And I found that jobs that are non-career tracked are like the best for me, like waitressing and being a sub teacher if you have a bachelor's. And do you recommend any other jobs that are good for opera if you're an opera singer?
I've been a receptionist for a lot of different places, and it's all temp work. There have been times where I've filled in for someone going on maternity or something like that.
Nice.
I love reception. And I think it's like you have it, for me, I don't have to use much of my skill set for it. I kind of like talking to strangers, and
but then I thought you have to conserve your voice.
Well, I've never found that it was too much to handle, really. Okay. Like a lot of the time, so much gets done by email now that the phone calls aren't exactly, if you have a high call volume, that's a different thing. I did do a job like that during quarantine, a customer service job, and I found like that is not for me. But only because, it was a high volume of people that I was talking to. So talk all day long. Plus, everybody that you talk to is irritated. It's just, I just was like, okay, customer service is not for me. Got it. So, it's all trial and error, I think. And then, if you can do something coding or doing any kind of web developing,
that's a
do
good
that
one.
because it's great and it's mobile. You can do it from basically anywhere, essentially anywhere. And I think too, I've done a lot of dog jobs, like walking dogs, bathing dogs. I work at a dog daycare sometimes, just like things like that. Yeah. At the same time, I do find, the more active jobs, the more even like hard physical labor, I don't mind it so much if it's like, reasonable and I can work my schedule and life around it. I've actually found that sometimes I prefer that, but you have to, I think, weigh your options, do something that you genuinely enjoy doing. Because if you don't enjoy it, it's like you'll quit, like there's a lot of jobs out there that you can get easily, but that you might hate, I think you'll do them for a couple of days and then you'll realize, oh, actually I hate this. But that's totally normal. I think we sort of give ourselves a hard time as musicians because we're so used to, making music and having that be our source of income. It's a huge adjustment to your identity when you're not making music for a living and your money is coming in from some other source. Like, I would get really depressed and think, oh God, I'm in my 30s. I'm a receptionist. Like this sucks. Look at all these awards I've won for singing opera, but no, it's like you can't get your head in that place. You have to just see it as a means to an end. I'm doing this job so I can continue singing. That's like, once you're in that place, really you can do any job. I think it's just like you have to find something ideally that brings you joy and something that you can do remotely if possible. Those are two good options.
No, that's I'm so glad that you've mentioned that, and
because it's hard
to not like find validation with whatever kind of work you're doing to pay the bills. Because I've definitely been in the position where it's like, okay, I've done this gig, have had these musical accomplishments or whatnot, but then I'd have friends that are around me who had houses with white picket fences expenses and a
For
401k
sure.
and like
Yep.
vacation hours.
Yep.
And I was just like, man, like I really hope like we can make it and things work out. And then I really love how you mentioned and that you're so courageous and vulnerable about talking about depression, because I get all these highs from doing my art, but most of the time I'm depressed. I just mask it.
You
And so
know,
I wanted to
yeah.
ask you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I haven't even like prepped this question in
No,
any
it's
way,
totally fine.
but art seems to attract those who are sensitive, who could have proclivities to having those highs and lows, or
Yeah.
just be depressed.
Yeah.
And the art itself, just like the chaos that entails pursuing art, I personally think it exacerbates those emotions.
Yeah,
So I just wanted
definitely.
to know, like kind of encapsulating everything that you've mentioned, where it's like body positivity and mental health.
yeah.
Like, what can you say to other artists who are out there who are just like, man, I'm just not talented. I love music, but I don't know. Or
I would just say that, like, you're not alone. You know, I think that's the most important thing, is that there's so many of us that feel that way. And I'm literally talking to people recently in the last, if anybody seems like they're kind of struggling in their social media narrative, I will typically like reach out.
what does that look like, by the way?
I mean, it's like, to me, it's,
Like
a post that's
memes?
like,
Okay.
no, a post that's like, oh, that's that language is kind of sad, or like, oh, like, I haven't heard from this person in a while. I'm going to check in on that person, which is just something I'll do if I feel like,
that's
that
nice.
person has said something to me like, hey, I struggle with this as well. I'm very open about it, if only because, it helps my mental health to be honest about it. It really does. Like, if I pretend like I'm not depressed, that's when I typically find myself feeling the most anxiety and pressure to put on a happy face for everybody around me, which I think is very much, comes from my childhood. And like, I played that role in my family of like the clown who like kind of lightens the conversation, makes things not so heavy all the time.
Yeah,
And
I did that too.
Yeah,
it's my codependence kicking in.
it's like the peacekeeping thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The mediator. And as of
Yeah.
recently, when people fight, even people I don't know fight, there's this huge desire to like mediate
Yeah.
them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, sit there, be
Yeah.
uncomfortable in the awkwardness.
I think it's like, that's the thing too. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is such a, I think like, God, I could really talk about mental health issues
me too, all day.
in performers all day long, because
Yeah.
it's such a huge problem. And I think too, there's a lot of my colleagues I think I've seen in the last, in the last like year or so, that have really struggled with their mental health, who are struggling with their mental health for the first time. Because I think when you take away the singer's ability to sing, we're not putting ourselves out into the world fully the way that we used to. And I'm using this language from this great production that Victory Hall Opera is doing called Unsung. And basically singers just going through the mental health issues that come with not being able to sing, not being able to do the thing that you were trained to do. And it happens to singers for a variety of different reasons, but most of it is that the career isn't linear. Everybody thinks it's just like, whoop, and you go rise up to the top and you're singing at the Met, but it's more like, like there's no, you'll have a period where you don't work for 2 years, but then all of a sudden, like, a change of leadership at a company, people want to hear you again. You just never know what the industry is going to do. So you have to have that sort of, I realized at the beginning of 2020 that nobody else was going to deal with my mental health issues except me, and that I had to be the one to take charge and really say to myself, if I'm going to be projecting this kind of idea of, being okay with myself, I also have to be okay with the fact that I don't necessarily have to sing all the time to be a successful opera singer. None of us do. That world is gone now. I think, maybe 20 years ago, sure. But now, there's no shortage of companies or places to sing for or people to sing for. Same for any instrumentalist, really. And if you want to make a project happen, you can make it happen. You just have to, dedicate yourself, put the time into it. But, just specifically going back to mental health things, I think, so many of us are prone to it. Mm-hmm. And so we go through these times where we're really productive and all of a sudden we're doing a lot, and then we'll have slumps where we kind of fall off and it's like, oh, well, I had, an episode and I kind of was stuck in bed for a couple days. What I've learned is that I just learn to roll with those things and just let it happen. So if I'm feeling really bad for a couple of days, if I'm down, I'll just be down for a couple of days. And, it's like typically only happens when I'm not working. When I'm working, I have this sort of, this is why you should hire depressed people for every job in the world because we will always show up because we're terrified of not showing up. Because then someone will be like, it's your mental health. And so I think when you have that kind of hanging over you, it's like it makes you more reliable because you're constantly worried. Like if you tell someone you have depression, like just wait for them to, use that against you in some way. So I think you're
preemptively giving them something to attack you on.
Exactly. So it's like, I just try not to do it. But at the same time, I think you just have to get to that place in yourself where you are kind of like, some days are going to feel better than others. I've learned that definitely in quarantine. Like I'll have a couple of days where everything's great. For some reason, I'm feeling really good, like feeling really positive and optimistic. And then some days I don't. And that's okay too. Like some days I feel like everything is terrible. And it's like some days everything is terrible. I think, January 6th, right? Like that was one of those days where I was just like, okay, this is a terrible day. Like I'm just going to go home, and be sad. And I think when I give myself the space to do that, I inevitably end up feeling a lot better in the long run because I'm not denying myself sort of the ability to feel my feelings. I think as women especially, we get gaslit about our feelings a lot. So it helps a lot to just be like, no, I feel bad. I'm going to feel bad until I don't feel bad anymore. Like that's really all it is. And then just like cutting yourself some slack, nobody's perfect. All of us musicians are struggling and I think it'll get better. It always does get better. I think that is like depression will lie to you and say you're always going to feel this way. And so when I catch myself getting in that sort of cycle of negative thought, I'll just be like, no, depression is a big liar. And it tells you, you're going to feel this way for a really long time. And so I think part of that comes from me, my first onset of depression was in high school. So I've just been dealing with it for a long time. And I think the more I deal with it, the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, this is a little hack for my depression. Like if I get outside, it's 100% will lift my mood. Sometimes if I force myself to like go out and actually see people when I'm feeling very, very depressed, it can actually like really, it has sort of a domino effect in other areas of my life. It gets me excited about things. So I've just learned like, okay, this is what works for me. And I think that's like,
that's great.
It applies to every aspect of being a musician,
All right. Now, speaking of things being better and believing things will be better, you've got things lined up. If you can please mention a couple gigs you want to promote and where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at my website. It's marina-harris.com. That's a pretty easy way. I'm pretty big on Instagram and not very good with Facebook and Twitter. So you can find me at Marina Sings on all of those things. But it's definitely a good way to keep in touch. I'm going to Boston to do a a production of Wagner's early opera Das Liebesverbot with the Cambridge Chamber Ensemble in May. So I'm very excited about that. Possibly,
and that's live in person.
It's not in person. We're doing. We're all quarantining. Pardon my tongue-tied. But yeah, so we're all quarantining. Then there's no live audience, so it's all filmed. It's all a virtual production. And then in theory, I'm supposed to sing Tosca in 2 productions of Tosca this summer that I'm waiting to hear about whether they'll be happening or not. And then in the fall, I go to Germany to do auditions and a series of recitals that I plan.
Why Germany? Is it like the hub of opera that extends throughout all Europe?
It's pretty much the only country that you can make your living singing in as an opera singer anymore. You can kind of try to do it here, which is what I do, but it's tough. Like, unless you're really a voice part that is needed, so like a bass, tenors, they always need tenors. Mezzos, not as much, but more so than sopranos. So really, to be a soprano who's working constantly, you do sort of need to be heading to Germany every once in a while. And I was supposed to go last year, and of course that didn't happen. Yeah. So now, it's a little bit, hopefully all that stuff will happen. Yeah. And I'm so grateful that you have me here today and talk about all this stuff.
Oh, no, it's been so wonderful. And I get, teary-eyed, and, there's so much more that Marina has to say. You can always just check out her posts and read a wonderful article about her on World Musician Press. She provides a lot of stories and resources, and she really just wants to help other people. So true. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on.
We'll have to do this again. I'm sure we could do a whole other episode, I'm sure.
I know.
It still wouldn't be enough. What is Kelly Kapora says this in the office, and she says, I talk a lot, so I've learned to tune myself out. That is me 100%. Like, I just and it's, to a fault, but I also feel like in the long term, people like it because, if I have something to say, I'll say it. Yeah. I think that's like one of the reasons that people should hire me, honestly, is because you're better suited to somebody who's actually going to give you their real opinion than who's just going to say, oh yeah, everything's great. It's like, we don't want to work with those people in sort of business settings. So why do we want that in our performers? But I think definitely, thank you for, letting me say things.
So this is Marina Harris, the voice of harmony, dissonance, and truth. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you or someone you know is struggling from mental health or substance use, you can call SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-4375. SAMHSA is a Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. This helpline provides 24-hour free and confidential treatment referral and information about mental and substance use disorders, prevention and recovery, and English and Spanish.
Welcome to our surprise segment. Now it's time for a visit from Madam Pepe.
Welcome to Tarot Time. You can call to me, Madam Pepe, and I am in this place to show you the good fortunes of our guests. What I do, I summon the informations combined with cards, and so you and our guests can receive learnings. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm going to shuffle. Now we have here the intuitions for, Marina Harris. Okay, let's see what we can find for Marina. Okay. Oh my goodness, the Empress. This is a great card. This is like the Queen of Queens, okay? Her dominion is wide and wow, very powerful. Okay, well, what is this to mean? For our listeners who cannot see the cards, basically we have a beautiful woman on a throne on lavish robes. She is also decorated herself in a wonderful dress. She is holding a wand or some kind of scepter, and she has a wreath on her head or garland of some kind, and she's behind her is this lush forest with this flowing river stream, and in front of her is this field of wheats and oats and just ready to be harvested. Okay, so this is all about abundance, contentment, and happiness. Maybe fertility. I don't know what your plans are, Marina, but anyway, this is all very good things. I very much like this card for you, and it looks just like you. Okay, see there? Very little people have such talent for opera singing like you, and you have a voice off the stage as well. And from your talk, I know that you've had such hard, difficult times, and just know that those days will not be forgotten, but they will be behind you, and that just keep doing what you're doing and inspiring others with your work on and off the stage. Okay, so Marina, if you're listening, I want to suggest to you to keep taking care of yourself, and with your art you can help take care of others. Okay, and you will bring lots of prosperity to you and your family. Okay. Well, that's it. I enjoy very much to bring you good news and fortunes. Thank you for visiting Madam Pepe. Okay, no more. See you soon. Very good. Bye now.
Marina-Harris.com.
Now, this is part 2 of the segment Music Retrospective, where we will explore the songs of Glass Spirits. With my co-host, Coco from San Diego, I'll be recounting the experiences I had with the people who have inspired these songs, the song's conception, and the aftermath of letting these people know I wrote a song about them. Many of these stories are very embarrassing, but I hope they give a little insight into the mind of an artist. Coco and I discuss behaviors that stem from anxiety, substance use, and actions that can be considered to be maladaptive behaviors, including self-harm. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. All right. Okay, and then on the count of 3, we'll both say Happy International Women's Day.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Happy International Women's Day. What day was that? It was
March 8th. So dumb.
You had a wardrobe change.
Yeah. And the thing is when I filmed it, I was heavier. So, yeah, I hope no one notices. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Happy International Women's Day.
I don't know why this is cracking me up so much. Okay. What if we alternate? You say happy, I say international.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Happy
International
Women's
Day.
Woo.
Okay.
We're gonna try it.
We can do this. I believe in us. Okay. Okay, think about dying animals or something. Okay. Jeez. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Happy International Women's Day. Welcome to Pepe and Ybra's new segment called Music Retrospective. It's where we'll be talking about the songs of Glass Spirits and the stories and the people behind them. I have with me here a very special guest. She's a musician, a yoga instructor, a crafty person, an all-around creative individual. She is Coco from San Diego.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Very kind.
Yeah. All right. So, well, first I'll kind of let the audience know. Usually after our guests in an episode, we have an after show where Abe and I talk about our guests or certain things that are happening in our band. And for those of you who have been following our podcast, Abe's wife, Sue, has passed away a few months ago. And so he is still in the process of grieving. And, he has just been burnt out and doesn't want to do the podcast anymore, at least at this point. And so that's absolutely fine, and I respect that. And he started off doing the podcast as a way to distract him at first, but now with certain holidays coming up, have brought back memories of him and his wife, like Valentine's Day, her birthday, and then what will be coming up is Mother's Day and Abe's birthday. So just major events in their lives, which he, won't be sharing with her anymore. And it's they've been together for 37 years. So we're all wishing the best for Abe and his grieving, and I hope he can grieve in peace. And so luckily some very good friends have stepped up, and so thanks so much for subbing for Abe and being down to start this new segment with us. Now I'll just talk about, finally we're here now, it's 2021. Something happens where I just kind of throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
I got mad, and then I was just like, fuck it. I'm just gonna send all these songs to guys who didn't know that these songs were about them. So
in 2021 or
in 2021.
That was your
this
New
year.
Year's resolution.
I'm gonna this happened kind of recently.
Okay.
So with a deified guy, he has it's always grated my soul that he had this bad version of the song.
You need the better one.
I want to give him the better one. So I find his website. I find his email.
I am not crazy. I'm kidding.
Well, he's easy to find because he's
he's like
well known in his industry.
Okay.
So I find his website, I find his email, and I write him a very short message. I said, hey, glad you're doing really well. And that it always bothered me. I know this seems random, but it always bothered me that you had a bad version of Deified, and attached is a hopefully better version that I'm doing with my awesome bandmate and awesome band, Glass Spirits. And then I just attached the song. And and that's it. And he hasn't written back.
And he's like, where did I follow you in the bathroom?
So that's that. And I just kind of didn't care about a response anyway, because I'm not.
Yeah, you just were upset that he had the bad version.
Yeah, for sure. And, and if he's listening to this podcast, you're more than welcome to, send feedback about it. I welcome it, whatever. So, anyway, so the next one, the Something Unspoken guy, I mean, as far as I know, I don't know what kind of business he's in. So I just found his Facebook. I made a friend request. He hasn't accepted my friend request. So I sent a message because I don't think he knows me by my stage name. So, and I sent a message, which I don't think was read. So I tried with him.
But he might just not be on Facebook.
That's true. A lot of people are have accounts but never log in.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. Or even if he didn't want me as a friend, that's fine too.
You're like, I just want you to have the better song.
I wanted him to have an updated version of the song.
Yeah.
I kind of like the old version, but this one's just more
who you are now. Like,
well, not necessarily, but it's just a different version.
Okay.
Because I was just on the roll. I was in a bad mood, and I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna send these. I just felt like courageous. Yeah. I wanted to blow off some steam. Okay. Now, Charlize. Okay. So I add this guy as a friend, and then he's just like, hey, long time no talk. And then I was like, and then I was busy that day, and I wasn't able to chat. So like I left a few messages like, hey, I wrote this when I met you.
he didn't ever know about the song.
He didn't ever know about the song.
Because you didn't do that whole like artsy like brick wall.
Yeah, I didn't. So, and so I didn't have a CD or anything to give him, like an MP3. So now we're in year 2021. What do?
What do you do?
I give him a link to the Spotify.
Please like and subscribe.
Exactly. Right. And so I was like, yeah, I changed some things around, but I pretty much, wrote this after I met you. And yeah. And sorry.
And here's also a link to the video.
No, I didn't link the video at all. Oh my God. It's weird. That
would be odd.
I don't know. That's even weird to me. So at least, he just listens to the song. What I care about is just like the song really at this point. So then, I felt regretful. Like, I was like, fuck, like, I'm not so much regretful, but I was just like, man, I didn't really want to reach out to this guy anymore. Like, I just
were done.
I was just like kind of mentally done with everything. I mean, I wish him the best. I wish him well. And if he's listening to this, I wish you well. But it's just
you close that chapter.
Yeah, and it was just like a time in my life that was just so chaotic, and I was just in a different headspace, and I would just rather not think about anything that happened around that time. And so I just like, yeah.
Did you send him the link and like unfriend him? I
sent him the link, and then oh my gosh, if this is like really cringe, I can edit this out.
Yeah.
But so I basically like unsent all the messages.
You can do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Unsend. Is it only if they didn't read it, or you can unsend even when
I can unsend even after they read it, and then they'll get a notification that says
deleted,
unsent or deleted. Yeah. So he already saw everything,
and then you took it out.
I took it out. And, is that kind of weird?
Well, I mean, did he so then did he ever respond back?
No, he didn't respond back. So
because I feel like he probably like thinking about like he's like, why is she reaching out to me? Maybe she thinks about me. I don't know. It's just like on his end.
Oh, I kind of wrote that like I really don't care about
like rekindling anything.
Well, I didn't say it in that way, but I was just like I look back at those memories. And everything was just kind of amusing to me. And it is, in a way, amusing. But at the same time, like, when I actually, like, recounted it, some of it to you off air, like, some of it was not.
Yeah.
And, like...
You don't want to go back to it.
Yeah, and so, I don't know, I just have, like, a warped sense of experience, I guess. As my mom likes to say, my mind is warped and my world is upside down.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Did she say that in Tagalog? Or
she says it in Tagalog, and it's so much funnier when it's in Tagalog.
I can. Yeah, and she's probably really passionate about it.
Yeah. So, okay, moving on. Okay, Lovesick Love already has that. He already has a song, and I've never talked to him ever again. And it's a live version is on Spotify, but and a soft version is on our CD. But it's not on. The real version is not on Spotify yet. It will be. Okay. Now Mexican Baby, like he found me on Facebook.
Oh, he found you.
Yeah, and he was like blowing up my Facebook Messenger like crazy.
How long ago was that?
This was in 2017.
Okay.
And
he missed you.
Well, the thing is that I found out later he lives
on a street.
He ended up living on a street called Joanna.
Oh no!
So I mean, hey, I didn't put a gun to his head telling him where to live.
Sounds a little weird.
Yeah. So, but he decided to live there. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So,
but he lived there.
He lived there, and I guess it just reminded
every day
of me every day. And then he was like, why didn't you, reach out to me? And I was like, I did, and then you didn't want to have anything to do with me, and so we didn't. We had a very passionate kind of interaction, as a Filipino and Mexican can.
Yeah.
So
yes, lots of passion.
Oh yeah, and so he we got back together briefly, or at least in his eyes. I wasn't mentally there yet. I was just kind of like,
let's test the waters.
I wanted to check it out because he kept showing me pictures of like his meditation space and his crystals, and I was like, whoa, he is the last person on earth I would
How'd
think
this happen?
to get crystals, because he seemed like maybe he changed. And so I was like, okay, I'll check this out. And so, and there's a lot of things that were more mature about him, but I just wasn't interested anymore. Sorry if you're, no, he wouldn't listen to this.
But sorry.
So, yeah. And, you know, I wish all my exes and ex interactions well, but yeah, it's just what's done, it's done, right? And so the thing is that I was never able to give him the song because of the way that we split. It was just so explosive. And so finally, when we were kind of reconciled briefly, I was able to give him like a CD.
Here you go.
Yeah. And so I videotaped him like listening to it.
That's the
like a reaction.
Did he agree to that?
No, I told him. I was like, okay, I'm gonna like videotape you.
I want to see your reaction
on my cell phone.
Yeah.
And then
what was his reaction?
And he really liked it. And he was just like,
yeah.
He was just like, thank you, baby. And so, yeah, and I have it because I'm psycho and I keep everything. So yeah, so that's that. Oh my God, you know what? I just realized what I'm like. Oh my God.
What?
Okay. Because I actually did research on this person. Okay. This is not going to put me in a good light, but it might be educational. So I'm willing to do things for education. But you know, all these trinkets kind of they kind of remind me of I was watching this documentary on the Unabomber.
They remind you of the Unabomber
because the Unabomber has issues with abandonment. And you know what? I'll just see where this goes. And so he sends these packages to people, and they're very unique, intricate packages. And
specific for those people?
Specific for those people. Like, it's very complicated to talk about the Unabomber because there's all these documentaries about him. But basically, you know, he has these issues. He plans things out really well. You know, I'm obviously like not killing anyone with packages, but I would say I'm the love song Unabomber.
You're the love song. I feel like you're better than that.
But yeah,
you drop songs, not bombs. Is that it?
Yes. But I mean, that's so catchy. But I wouldn't commodify that because I empathize or sympathize with the victims of the Unabomber. But yeah. So
you're just saying you're detailed and you're thoughtful to who you're providing the music to and how you provide it.
Yes.
And that's why like it's hard for you to give something just randomly. Like you with like Mexican Baby, you couldn't just not give him something, so you just didn't at the initial time. Like,
I mean, ideally, it would have been nice. I wasn't in the position to like get any of these people to like go to a concert hall where I can perform these things. So, you know, I wasn't in that position to like provide those opportunities. So I could only like record and like send it to them, you know. And it would be ideal to just, you know, play the song as perfectly as possible at the height of like me liking them and hopefully them liking me too. like to really express my affection accurately, but yeah, I just wasn't able to. And actually, I'll mention something about what an ex, you know.
Okay.
You know him really well. Okay, so he's someone I lived with.
Okay.
You know who that is?
I do.
Okay.
Look at him.
So someone I lived with for 3 years. I'm not gonna say when, but yeah,
That's a long time.
yeah. So there's a song. I might change the song title, but it has been previously. It's a very long song. It's the long piano song. Okay, you know it, right?
Oh.
Okay, and it's one that I performed with Psycho Bitch. So yeah, I wrote it when I wrote part of it, or I wrote most of. I wrote it when I was in the hospital,
Okay.
and and so. He
So you
visited
were
me.
recovering.
Yeah, he visited me in the hospital, and
Were you guys together at that time, or you had broken up?
we had broken up.
Okay.
And then so then when I went back home, he still visited me, and then I was just so out of it.
Yeah.
I was like really sedated, and then my face was really swollen.
Yeah.
And then
'Cause
I
all the
couldn't
medication.
even. Yeah, just everything. And
like
I-
life.
Yeah. And then my eyes, like I couldn't open my eyes. And so then I had this electric piano with me, and I had like the roots of the songs,
Yeah.
or like the bare bones of the songs. And then like it just I was only able to play like the dark part of the song. Actually, the first part, okay. Well, the first part of the song is a very romantic, loving part, and I wrote it when I was getting together with him.
It's like the beginning.
Yeah. And
Everything's beautiful.
the
amazing.
thing is that like, he was very depressed at the time. So I played it for him, like on.
Oh, he was depressed at the time that you played it for him.
Yeah, he was going through depression, and then he was like, "Oh, that's nice," and that just like really shot my self-esteem.
Yeah. But you already had. I mean,
Yeah, and,
you've, in the history of all your songs, you've kind of proven that
and I was just like, "Oh,
it's a lot to put yourself out there, though.
yeah." And then I was like,
And you
well,
did this
fuck.
live?
No.
oh,
I
you
had him
don't-
listen to a CD.
Okay.
And
Just
then-
a portion of. A
Yeah, I
song.
mean, later I found out that he like really liked it and
But
thought
he
it was
just-
amazing, but he wasn't in the mindset to receive and understand the song.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so I wrote the second half of the song, the darker part, when I was in the hospital, and then I came out, and I was like so inspired and full of ideas, right? And then, so he came over, and I was like, and I called him, and I was like, you gotta hear this
Other part?
song, the second part that I wrote, and so
Did you know that he liked the first part at that
yeah,
point?
he liked the first part.
No, you knew that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I could not, like, I was not, because I was like sedated and swollen, I wasn't able to like physically
You
play.
weren't, yeah.
So
Oh.
I just played like 4 notes.
Oh my gosh.
Da na na na. and then I was just playing it really, really bad, and then I only played like 1 minute, because that's all I was able to physically do, and then I
Yeah.
got tired.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, I mean, I like the music. I don't really like the lyrics.
Oh.
And then so it was just kind of
So this
bad.
is round 2 of you letting him hear the song.
Yeah.
But it was like the different part.
Well, yeah, the lyrics were quite dark.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, whatever. And then like I cleaned myself up. I like finished my semester of school, and then I went to England. You know.
Okay.
So yeah.
And that was
I didn't really want to mention this song because, you know, I'm not playing this song with Glass Spirits, but it kind of, I wanted to mention it because it was a song that I finally performed for a person live.
Yeah.
But then I performed it really, really bad. And so, however,
You weren't in a good headspace.
yeah, I came back. Epilogue. I came back from England.
Was this after you? So was this your first time to England or a second time?
After my first time to England,
Okay.
I spent the summer here.
Oh.
And actually before I left, some bitch at a party was flirting with him. And, you know,
Bitch.
well, we weren't together, so it didn't matter.
I know,
and I
but
didn't
still.
care because I was already, my mind was already like going to England. You
yeah,
know,
you
and
were
we had
in
split
different.
up.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Still,
yeah,
but so some
but she was like all up on his jock and shit, and
he was like,
yeah, her
"Ah."
face was like totally punchable. But anyways, and I do not condone violence, so
No.
just
only
these
when
are-
somebody's face is totally punchable.
yeah,
Then it's fine. No, I'm just kidding.
and yeah, so he was having a party, and you know, she was just like all smiling
Free
and
spirit.
like and all like
La, la,
cherub
la.
like looking at him, and I was just like, okay, bitch,
Like,
this
you
is my
don't
last
even know.
day on this continent, peace out for a minute, right? Let me have my moment, my last moment with him. And so yeah, I had my last time with him.
Okay. During that party? Yeah.
You know, we went to his room, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, and then like, oh yeah, because I was just like so annoyed, because you know, like when you're connected with someone, then you have like a sixth sense if like someone likes him or whatever. It's
not
like a
okay.
weird
Yeah.
instinct. It's like a certain energy.
Yeah,
like
you can pick up on it. Yeah.
you pick up on it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, fuck this bitch.
Like,
So I hooked up with him, and I just like you know, marked my territory all over him.
And just so you know.
Yeah, my scent was all over him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to smell me if you smell him. Yeah. So
There's her cherubness. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Okay. So then, because the reason why I mentioned this bitch was that I came back from England, and then they had been dating. So she was like,
She's like,
eyeing
I
him.
remarked him.
Well, you'll see what happens. You'll see.
Okay.
So I was kind of like already over him at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had my adventures in England. I came back,
Different person.
reinforced, strong, independent. Yes, risen from the ashes,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and then I was just like, hey, I'm doing an open mic. You know, come check it out. Just letting you know, I'll play the song about you. And by that, okay, so when I lived in England, I had in Bristol, I had a host family. I was so lucky that they had a grand piano.
Okay, wow.
And so I was able to learn
Play.
and practice piano. That's where I
Wow.
learned how to play, learn to arrange and play deified for piano and Silver Bullet Suite.
Wow.
So yeah, I came back and I was like a
Look at
lot
my
better.
skills.
Yeah, because like before I was just like da,
Ding,
da,
ding,
da,
ding,
da. Yeah, it was awful. But now I can like finally like play with more fluency and stuff, and you know, I'm not like a professional by any means,
But,
or but
But
you know,
dabble.
I dabble, right? I dabble in my rock band professionally in my rock band. But anyways,
Oh.
so yeah, and so I invited him over to see this open mic. And so, and then he just, he arrives with his girlfriend because, he broke his leg
Oh no.
and she had to drive him.
To your show.
Yeah.
Did she remember you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. How do you forget you?
Well, because the thing was, she was mad at him because while I was in England, he was writing letters to me.
Oh.
And then she was getting mad at him, like, why aren't you writing letters to me? And he's just like,
Because I don't love you. I'm kidding.
probably.
But
Well,
why would he write letters if they live in the same area?
yeah, no, exactly. And she was just like getting jealous or whatever. And
Well, it is weird for him to write you letters when he has a girlfriend.
I guess so.
I mean,
yeah.
that is his
So-
bad.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you know, I was, you know, thousands of miles away. I
Yeah.
figured
Why
no
not?
harm is
No,
going to
yeah,
come
yeah.
to me. That's all on him.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
it's on him. That's,
Yeah. So anyways, so yeah, like things weren't perfect with them, you
Yeah.
know, from the get-go. And so then she's
Well, yeah.
so she drives him to my show, and then I
And did
performed
she
this-
know she was driving him to your show?
Yeah, she knew. And so
Why would she do that?
because he really wanted to go, and he hasn't seen me in a year, right?
Yeah, but I would be like, get another driver.
And so, well, I don't know. Maybe she wanted to just like
She wanted
watch
to.
us.
She wanted. Okay.
Keep an eye on us. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Well,
Mark her territory.
I wasn't gonna do anything.
Yeah,
obviously.
no, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just. That's an odd thing to do, like as a girlfriend, when you don't like, yeah. Because I'm pretty sure she didn't like you.
like kind of like masochistic in a way.
Like, let me see what he does.
Yeah. So, yeah. So basically, I performed and I did like a pretty good job, or at least I remember doing a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I go up to him afterwards, like, hoping he'd be, like, proud of me and stuff. And then he looked, like, kind of upset and stuff. I was like, oh, okay. And
Guess it didn't work.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, he looked a little teary-eyed. I was like, oh, okay. And then he was just chatting with me and stuff. And then his girlfriend was just, like, it was just so weird when I was just talking to him normally. She just kept, like, kissing him while he was talking to me,
but not acknowledging you.
Yeah, it's like she would be like, "Oh, good job," but then she'd like kiss him, like trying to like mark her territory on him.
She's like, I know what you did.
And so it was just really awkward and unnecessary.
And he's teary-eyed.
It was teary-eyed. It was, yeah.
Did he say anything?
And then he was just like, oh yeah, it was a good job. And I think he said maybe my piano playing improved and stuff like that. Okay. So, yeah. And then, I was only in California or the US for like a small amount of time. Oh, and then we made plans to get coffee, like properly. And then he had to cancel. And then I was like, oh, cause it's not like him to like cancel.
Yeah.
And, he's like, I'm really sorry, but my girlfriend's really jealous. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I understand, but I mean, you can't tell her that we're just friends and she can even come too. And he was just like, well, things aren't great right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he was like, and then he said, basically, like, she got really, really mad at him because on the way home from the show, he broke down crying. And
about the song?
Yeah, about the song. And yeah, and then she was like really mad, and she was like, why did she have to play that song? And he was like, well, she's a musician and that's what she does. And so,
and she's not a musician.
Yeah. And so after that, like, they broke up and stuff. I mean, eventually, not necessarily because of that incident.
But I mean, they weren't dating that long then. Like,
at least a year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, that was I don't know why that was. Oh yeah, I mentioned that because I finally performed that song properly for like live for someone, and that's
and the reaction was real,
and I got their genuine reaction. So that was good. I mean, I didn't want him to suffer in any way or his relationship to suffer. So maybe that was. I'm not saying that's my bad on my part. If he had any inkling that he would feel that way, then maybe he shouldn't have come to watch it.
There's a lot of emotion there. Like, you guys were together for 3 years.
Yeah, and when you live with someone, it's magnified.
Yeah.
It's magnified. It's like you've been together for like 6 years. Yeah. So
you went through a lot.
Oh yeah.
And so I think he probably remembered all that.
For sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he I guess like the whole point of mentioning this is like, as an artist, you want, whether it's like playing your music on a CD on nice speakers in a quiet environment to your subject, that's ideal. And if you're a performer, to perform your best in front of the subject, that's ideal, because sending someone a link to like the song on Spotify, it's just so anticlimactic, you know.
Well, and you don't know what their reaction's gonna be.
I mean, it's nice to know a reaction, you know, for a song that you sing hundreds of times. It is, you do get curious, but I've known just to not rely on it or expect on getting any kind of validation from it, because at that point I stopped liking these people like way after, you know. So
when we were in Paris, there was this guy, right? Wojciech. Did you ever write a song about him? Like,
oh shit, we don't mention their names.
oh, sorry.
Okay, hold on. It's I don't. Okay.
What do we call him?
Okay. But yeah, let's come up with a name from him, because we met him in Paris, but he's from Poland. So the guy from Poland. Let's call him a Polish name. Hold on. Piotr.
Piotra. I don't know Polish.
Neither do I. Okay. Oh, that's too hard.
Pierre. French Pierre.
Well,
but he's Pietro. Okay. How do you say it?
Piotr.
Piotr.
Pio and then Tra.
Piotra. No,
Yeah.
Piotr.
Okay. It's not even his name, and we're like focusing on it too much. Okay, you know what? He's it's okay. We can call him Wojciech.
Or we can.
It's
no,
fine.
no,
It's okay, because he'll never. He's really old timey. He'll never listen to this podcast.
Okay.
He just because last
How
time.
about Mr. Check? No,
That's kind of weird. Okay.
I don't know.
Let's Wojciech is fine. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure he won't listen to this. Okay, and there's tons of Wojciechs in Poland.
Yeah.
It's like a very common name. It's basically the equivalent of George.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's call him George.
That sounds weird. Yeah. But you're doing so good calling him Wojciech, so let's call him Wojciech. Well, the thing is I don't have a song about him. Okay, see, the thing is I'm able to write these songs when there's a quote. I can't bring up the quote. I don't remember who it's by. Maybe I'll like have a lower third graphic or something. But it's from this author. When you write your first line, you need to also be ready to write the last line. And so I knew that instinctively. And so when I write these songs, it's like I know how the story ends, even if like I self-sabotage you know, my chances with these people by kind of manifesting a negative destiny without them. So yeah, you're asking if I wrote a song about Wojciech, and I haven't. Even though I've had like one of the most craziest experiences with him, and you were there.
Yes.
You were there to witness it all.
Yes. It was a wild beginning, or it was different.
Yeah. Okay. So this was 2008. I was studying abroad in England. You were studying abroad in Italy. Then we had winter break.
So it was 2007, 2008. Just to.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like the New Year's, right?
Yeah. And it was, yeah. And so we decided to meet up in Paris.
Because it's the most romantic place.
Yes. And so we spent 5 days in Paris. And well, then we went to Versailles, which wasn't in Paris, but
Yeah, but it was just a day trip. Yeah.
Yeah. And so so on day 2 and 3, I think it was New Year's Eve. And so like we went to the Eiffel Tower. And then there's all these fucking couples like together
everywhere. And we're just us.
Yeah, we were just both like single, like lurking.
Yeah.
And so then we come across this park bench with these two guys.
Yeah.
So I talked to one, and you talked to the other.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I was talking to one of them for a while. He's a really nice guy, and no offense to him or anything, but I just was like, not
today.
it. I was not feeling it, and I was like, man, you know, like,
No.
like,
Next.
this is New Year's Eve, like, so then I told him, hold on, and I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
So I
Wait a minute.
so I go up to you,
And I was like, whatever, talking to the other guy. And I'm,
and so I was like, we need to like have a change of plan here. Let's switch.
let's see. You with me? And I was like, sure.
Okay. And it was good switch.
Well, I mean, I wasn't really interested either. I think, yeah, no, it didn't matter.
And so,
That poor other guy.
yeah, well,
Because I don't think I was like, I'm not kissing you either.
and so then I was happy with the switch.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, okay.
He's cute.
He's cute.
He's tall.
Oh, there was something I kept asking both of them that you said was really funny that you listened to me later. The first guy, I was like asking about, okay, because these Polish guys, they're Polish guys that were volunteering themselves for the French army. Mm-hmm. And so I was asking about the training, like what kind of training they would have, if they had like boot camp. And so I said to the first guy, I was just like, oh, okay, so you must be really fit. And so when we switched, I was talking to Wojciech again, and he was just like,
you switched with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he talked about training too, and I was like, oh, you must be really fit. and you pointed it out to me later. That's what I was taking note of.
Yeah. And then you can see how much attention I was paying to the other guy. You both of them. Both. I was like, I want to hear about her.
So, oh my God, yeah. So, I like Wojciech, and I felt comfortable with him. And I was like, I'm gonna try to kiss this guy, at midnight under the Eiffel Tower, right? And so, and I was just like, oh, can you take a picture of me under the Eiffel Tower? And he was like, okay. And then so we go to the Eiffel Tower, and then we take pictures.
So romantic.
And then, so while we were looking over at our pictures that we took, and he was next to me, and I like give him like a really quick kiss, and then he kissed me back, and then like we made out after that, and so then we came back to you guys,
just like,
and we were like holding hands and embracing and stuff, and so. Yeah, and then we just talked for hours, and then, I think we kissed at midnight and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, it was really nice. We, like, talked for a long time, and then I guess when we had someone take a picture of us, and so Wojciech put his arm around me, and then his friend put his arm around you.
Oh, and I'm like, I know that picture. I'm like, do not...
I'll put it on the video podcast. You were such a good wing woman.
I try.
You wing woman. You winged for me twice.
Yeah.
You're so good.
I was like, she wants this. I mean, in that case, I like switch guys. Sure. Which one do you want?
Yeah, it was. Oh my God. And so they were on their way to a part of France that was far, and then we exchanged emails. And honestly, I thought I'd never see him again.
Yeah.
And then we finished our trip in Paris. You went back to Italy. I went back to England. And I'll go into telling the story because the few people that I've told this to love this story. So maybe our viewers might like it. So yeah, because people will want to know like what happened and stuff, and why I didn't write a song about this particular person, who I've interacted with for 13 plus years.
Wow.
And so yeah, I went back to England, and then he told me that he's gonna be in army training. So I just didn't expect to ever hear from him again. I thought that was it,
One night.
Yeah, and so one kiss, and so
under the Eiffel Tower.
yeah, it was pretty crazy, and so I was in England and I received this email that said, I do not want to be part of the French army. I'm going to go back to Poland. I really don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but but this whole time that I was here, all these 14 days, I thought about you. So I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but for now, all I know is I want to see you again.
Wow.
And yeah, and then I was just like,
It was like 14 days later. Like,
yeah, and I was just like, oh man. And then he was just like, let me know. I'll fly to England. Like, let me know like what day is good for you.
You must be a good kisser.
It
was romantic.
Maybe, and I don't know. I mean, like sometimes I wonder like what it was. I mean, maybe we just genuinely liked each other as people, and our energy and our temperament.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can only know so much about a person even if you talk to them like the whole time. So yeah, so I mean at that point I just attributed that to just like being attraction or whatnot, and then but at the time like I went with it. I was like, hey, he's like this is crazy awesome. And then so he was just like, yeah, like let me know what days work for you. And I was just like, okay, like it probably won't happen. Back of my mind was just like like this probably won't happen, but I sent him days like that I was not going to be in class, like certain long weekends I had, and so finally we just kept escalating and making like more plans, and then he bought a flight, he bought a hotel, then I was like, okay, I bought his coach ticket. Yeah, it was crazy. And then so finally the day comes. And then, cause he's like, and I was like, okay, what do you want to do while you're in England? And he was like, well, I like really like army things. And I was like, okay. And so we go, I had planned for us to go to the War Museum in London, and then like a flying museum, like somewhere else. I forget. It was like more in the country area.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, while he's here, let's have him go to places that he will definitely enjoy.
Yeah.
And so,
that was sweet.
Well, yeah, I wanted him to have a good time, and so, so Bristol is 100 kilometers west of London, and so he
Which
flew
is
into
like how many
London.
miles? Like 50? Is it half?
It's maybe. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's like 2/3. I think because I think 15K is like 9.
Okay, so maybe like 75 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so I take a coach to London, and then he's already flown in. He looks different because his head had been cut short because of army. Oh, sorry. His hair has been cut short, for army training, right?
Yeah.
Not completely bald or anything,
But just different.
And then he was like a lot thinner, like ripped, thin and ripped.
How much longer had it been?
Like 3 weeks.
Wow.
Because I guess the training was.
Well, so when we saw him in Paris, they were in jackets.
They're in jackets, but when you look at his face,
you can tell like there was
his face was fuller. He not fat at all.
No.
But yeah, there was just he had
more definition.
cheeks and so when I saw him, I almost didn't recognize him because he got like ripped, and then I saw him waiting for me, and then I was like so scared. He was just like looking left and right, looking for me, and then I was just I was like a few yards back, and I see him like looking for me, and like scanning around, and I was just like really scared to like move forward, and so I was just standing there watching him.
Yeah,
and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really crazy, and it's like I barely know this person. This is what crazy people do, right? And so. And I was like, you know what? Like, don't be an asshole. Like, he came all the way from Poland to see you.
People doing that, so you can't be that crazy.
Yeah, that's true. And so yeah, I was like,
he came from Poland.
Yeah, he came from Poland to see me, and I was like, okay, don't be an asshole. Just at least, see where it goes. And so I like move forward, and then he sees me, and then he just like grabs my hand right away. And he was just like, okay, like, and he like hugs me, and he's like, okay, where do we go? And then yeah, we just traveled together, and And then, you know, for the most part, like, yeah, we had like a really good time in our travels, like seeing all the, like the war museums and like the army stuff. It's not exactly my thing, but
Yeah.
I was down to like check it out. And,
Well,
you know,
you were with him.
yeah,
so
I was with him. I was happy, and we took lots of pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of thinking, like,
What's
is like,
gonna happen?
this is like crazy shit, you
Yeah.
know? So I was just not really present in that sense, because I just, like, you know,
It's surreal.
looking, it was just very surreal. And so we go, where did we go? What else happened? So yeah, we went to the army museums, and then what happened? And it was just like sometime, and then like we had missed a bus, and it was kind of like stressful. Then I had to like pay for a very expensive taxi to take us where we needed to go, and
Money.
yeah, and it was just kind of a very stressful trip, because I planned to, it was my fault in a way. I planned too much on the trip. And so,
What
you
do you
know,
mean by that? Like
I planned too many things to
oh
do
yeah, you had
that,
too much in a short amount of time.
yeah, in a short amount of time. And because I was just trying to, like, you know, make him happy. And then later on, he was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said I was interested in the army
I didn't
things."
really
And
mean that.
And then, well, he was just like, "Yeah, the whole point of coming here was to see you,
Oh.
and like, I'm afraid like I stressed you out." And I was like, "No, don't worry about it."
But
And,
yes, you did.
and you know, the thing I liked about him is that he carried my bags the whole
Oh
time.
yeah, you're like, this
So
is great.
I was like bag free. It's wonderful.
Oh yeah, because he's a big, strong man. He's
Yeah.
like-
He's ripped.
yeah, he's ripped too.
Yeah. And so
Well, at that point, where were you living? Where you live?
I was living in Bristol with a host family.
Okay.
And so then we went back to Bristol, and I introduced him to my host family.
Uh-huh.
And then we spent maybe like a day or a day and a half there, and we were walking around. We saw my school, and so yeah. And then we went to it was night, and he was gonna catch a flight back to Poland. No, he was gonna catch a bus back to London, which would take him back to Poland. And then I just felt this immense anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, then we go to like the bus station, and then I was just like, okay, I have to go like study for my class, and
Okay.
and then it was just total
Nonchalant.
bullshit. It was just total bullshit, because he came on days that were supposed to be convenient for me,
Like you had planned this out.
Yeah,
And
planned
like
this
and
out.
talked about it.
and I was just like,
I gotta go.
and I was just like, yeah, I gotta go,
I'm busy.
and I gotta like study. And he was like, oh god, I hate talking about this. I haven't mentioned this to other people when I talk about this story. Well, actually a couple people, but because it paints me
feel-
like
yeah.
it makes me look really bad.
Well, yeah.
But it's the truth. It's part of the story. And
That's who you are.
so
Horrible.
and so I was like, and he was like, "You don't want to wait with me?" And and I was like, you know, I really gotta study for this test. I gotta go. And
This
then,
was fun.
yeah. and then like I hugged him, and I made it quick, and then I just started walking briskly.
And you had to carry your bag though.
Yep, I did. And so yeah, and so then and then I kept walking, and then 10 minutes in, I was like, you know, what the fuck was I doing? Because I basically was hurting really bad.
You were feeling rejected.
Well, in a way, I mean, even though I knew we had planned like when he was gonna leave, I just felt like so sad and hurt that he was leaving, and I didn't want him to leave. And
That's how you coped.
that's kind of like how I coped. If I did like one clean,
Like,
you know, it's like, okay, I'm gonna leave you before you leave me.
Yeah, how dare you get on a bus or whatever to leave?
Yeah.
It was self-preservation. So,
Yeah.
So you didn't have to feel rejected, or
Yeah, totally. And I'll definitely admit that. And so, you know, I mean, if the viewers and listeners by now kind of know, I have interesting communication skills and weird ways of expressing myself. So
But I think we all do.
yeah. And so then I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? And his bus is going to leave and I'm not going to properly say bye to him. And so I go back, and then I was like, not going to make it on foot in time, you know?
Yeah. Oh no.
And then I stand at a bus stop and I wave down this bus.
A bus.
And this city bus. And it was a bus that was already out of service. That was done for the day.
They're like,
But I waved it down, and the bus driver picked me up.
they saw you.
They saw me.
Desperation.
I
Like,
emitted.
yeah, they're like, this woman needs to go somewhere.
Yeah. And then the bus driver opens the door, and he's like, "Where to, my love?" And oh my God.
Super sweet. Like,
Yeah, and then I was like, "Okay, the bus station," and then there was like no fare to pay or
yeah, because
anything.
it was already done.
Yeah,
And he's like, this, she's got to go.
and so then he goes and he drops me off, and it was just so crazy, and I made it just in time, and I saw Wojciech, and then oh my God, and he looked so sad.
Oh.
And I felt so like such a huge asshole. And then I just ran up to him and I was just crying like like awful, like ugly crying and everything. And I was just telling him, I'm so sorry, and I just don't know how to act in a situation like this. And then how's my eye makeup?
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. and he's like, and I just kept crying.
Yeah.
And
you know what you felt though?
Huh?
What did he say?
And then he was just like, and then he kind of like,
it's okay.
Like, grabbed me, and he didn't like shake me violently or abusively, but he was just like
firm.
He was firm, and he was like, be strong, don't cry." And so, yeah. I wish I had like tissue. Well, these are like wet.
Well, that's not real tissue. I don't have any tissue.
Okay, it's okay.
Oh.
So, anyways, and so we waited together.
He told you to be strong.
Told me to be strong.
And he was like,
yeah. And
he's
so
caring.
then, yeah, and then he his bus came, and then I properly got to see him off. And then I went home. I got an email from him when he finally went to Poland, and he told me that he was crying on the bus. And then he said, this is like really dangerous, and that we, there's something about it, like where we probably shouldn't see each other again, and just kind of really enjoy the memories.
What do you mean? What did he mean by that?
And
like it's too much?
Yeah, it was like too much for both of us. It was.
There's a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
Because that was only like 3 weeks after you first meeting him.
Yeah.
And how long was he there?
He was there for like 3 days or something.
Wow,
3-4 days.
that was a lot of passion and emotion.
Yeah. So it's crazy because I feel like I finally found someone who was just as crazy as me, and it was perfect.
Or understanding.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and choosing our podcast. It really means a lot to us. Now, check out part 1 of Music Retrospective in the previous episode if you want to hear some embarrassing stories behind the conception of Glass Spirits' songs that involve poop, awkward dirty talk, and drunk dialing. Stay tuned for part 3 if you want to hear what happens next. If you want to see more of me with Coco from San Diego, you can watch our pre-show vlog that we streamed live on Twitch using the link up here or the link in the description below. On our next episode, we're going to have Maxim Bulgroth, aka Hot Sauce, a musician, educator, content creator, and all-around creative person. Max talks about his journey from theater acting to playing in a band with me, becoming a college professor, and being a digital creator who is active in podcasting and video game streaming. Please rate and review our podcast. If you want to keep our podcast, Pepe and Ybra, going or support our band, Glass Spirits, please join our Patreon. For just $5, $3, or even $1 a month, you can help keep us afloat. Our band name, Glass Spirits, is one word, spelled GLASSPIRITS. You can find us on most social media platforms just under Glass Spirits. The music you hear on this episode is our podcast theme song. It's an original song by our band Glass Spirits called Something Unspoken. You can download Something Unspoken from all major retailers or stream it on Spotify. For this episode, however, we want to give you an audio sample of Deified, the song that was mentioned in part 1 of Music Retrospective. This is an exclusive version from our soft release of Glass Spirits' album, Mysteries of Rhythm. The live version is on Spotify, and you can find it from just looking at the following code in this video, or the link in the description below, or in our show notes. Now, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of Deified.